I'm Darren McCarthy,
I'm Dan Fury.
and this is The Fundamentals. Got kind of a quick one, quicker than I expected.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm sure, like any subject, it's deeper than any one person could ever possibly imagine it. This week, we're going to dive in a little bit to chemotherapy.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It is a big one.
Surprised you took that on
I
first.
feel like it's ubiquitous.
Everybody has a general sense of it's seemingly necessary, but can be very, very tough.
I think what I was pleasantly surprised with was I think as a subject, I'm sure is insanely difficult if you are a researcher or a drug developer. Super powerful medications, super serious diseases. There's a lot riding on it. It affects pretty much, 1 in 3 people will get some form of cancer.
Is it 1 in 3 now?
I think so. I think it's pretty high. And that also, if you're 95, you might have some cancerous cells. That being said, though, I think just in general, it can be dumbed down pretty easily, which may be a result of it being so common that doctors have had to explain this to millions of people every year. So chemotherapy, in a nutshell, is the use of medication to treat disease. It is so closely associated with cancer, though, that when we say chemo, it means cancer.
So it's a much
treatment.
broader term.
Yeah, at its base, it's just using medication, using chemicals to fight disease.
Yeah.
So I think having gotten into this, the classic fundamentals, you pretty quickly end up going down the what is cancer kind of road.
Yeah.
Because chemo is so closely related to cancer. Yeah, you can't really avoid it. So in my my brief foray into the cancer side of the research, cancer is essentially cells that are replicating themselves or overproducing at an uncontrolled rate.
Yeah. So
there should be a balance in your body of new cells being created and then old cells dying off, and you have a nice little balance, and you live a happy, healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, though, that cells will, for a number of reasons in pretty much every part of your body, could just start going nuts. So as those cells accumulate and keep dividing and developing, that's where you get things like tumors and lumps. And so a tumor that has grown and is cancerous needs to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also tumors that aren't cancerous, just a collection of cells, essentially, and those would just be benign tumors.
That's what you want.
Yeah, that's what you want. And if it spreads, it metastasizes. So you might detect cancer, say, in your bones. They're showing up there.
That's not good.
But it's actually liver cancer.
Right.
So wherever the cancer starts, that's where you kind of come back to. So you had this liver cancer, it went undetected, and then when it was detected, or maybe because it affected some other part of your body, they trace it back to where it started. Here's kind of the fun thing. What chemotherapy drugs, and there's a few hundred of them, so some of them would be pretty familiar to us, like the steroids that are used. Prednisone is, I think, a pretty common.
I've heard that term.
Yeah, you've heard. If you've heard of it, I think it's probably and you're not a pharmacist or a doctor,
right?
Probably pretty common. There are a few different ways that they will work, and there's a few different types. One of the common threads, though, is that they will be affecting the DNA or the RNA of those cancer cells, but they will also affect healthy cells as well.
Right.
And one of the things that I didn't know until now that I never understood is why people's hair falls out.
Okay, yeah.
During chemotherapy. I knew that happened. My grandmother went through chemotherapy and her hair fell out.
My aunt did too. It was pretty bad.
And it is such like a cancer-related thing. Like, oh, you're going through chemo. Yeah, your hair falls out.
You know what's going to happen.
A lot of the drugs that are used, they are targeting fast replicating cells in the body. And your hair, the cells that make your hair grow, are fast replicating.
Fast.
So it's just like an innocent bystander.
Huh.
So you have these cancer cells in your body that are just going haywire and they're replicating really fast and overabundantly. And then you want to stop that. So you want to kill these fast replicating cells. Well, every other cell in the body is going to do that. Or that is fast replicating will be affected by that. It makes perfect sense, but it's...
I might have attributed that to... Usually when you're treating cancer, it's a combination of chemo and radiation. I didn't know whether or not it was the chemicals or the radiation that did that.
So that'd be the chemicals. Yeah. And that's an important point too with chemo is that it's almost always used in conjunction with something else. So it's not the end-all, be-all cure. And it's not necessarily a cure all the time, depending on the cancer and what stage it's in. It might just be, all right, we're going to hit it with a little bit of chemo for this kind of cancer with radiation or any other therapy or treatment plan. But sometimes it's just to reduce the size of a tumor before a surgery.
Yeah.
So it's not, they are fully planning that the surgical route is going to be the way to go. Yeah. But before we do that, instead of having to remove a lemon, let's remove a kiwi kind of thought. So that's another big part of it, which is stressful to me to think about.
Yeah.
Because I think the perception and the image of if you're on chemo is that you're just weakened.
Yeah.
It
really takes
everything out of you. And then you're going to go in for surgery.
Right.
It's a stressful thing to think about.
Yeah.
I can't help but if I read stuff like this, I just assume that I have cancer.
Yeah. And because you know that it is so common.
Yeah.
It's definitely more common than it was 30, 40 years ago. We're doing a lot of stuff to our bodies, mostly unassumingly, unknowingly.
I wonder too, even if it's more common or if it's because we have more capabilities to treat it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, we can test for it, we can treat it.
I would say it's a combination. I think there's definitely a lot of factors that are contributing to more of it. And the population is growing very rapidly. So is the cancer. So
yeah. And I'm sure, 150 years ago, people just had cancer and then they died.
Yeah.
And
that was that.
It's kind of what happened? Oh, consumption.
Certainly a lot more cancer survivors.
Yeah.
But a lot more cancers out there. How old were you when your grandmother had cancer?
I was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty young.
She survived it?
She survived, yeah. Yeah, she had a pretty major stroke as well and cancer. And
damn.
She had a tough run. But she survived she lived another 25 years.
Great.
Pretty much after that. And unfortunately, it was kind of like a slow decline over 25 years. And for a while, she got a lot of mobility back, and the stroke was really she lost all feeling on the left side of her body and was in physical therapy forever. And she got back to a point there where she was walking with a cane, and then I think something happened, like she fell.
Yeah.
And there was just this regression. And I think psychologically, she kind of couldn't walk.
It does happen a lot. People will hang around for a while, but as soon as they fall, as soon as something breaks and the fragility of everything seems so apparent, then they just kind of decline rapidly.
Yeah.
My aunt, I want to say 12 or so when she was diagnosed. She had a tumor in her stomach, and by the time it was getting treated, I remember it was very visible. Like, it was pretty huge. And she went through chemotherapy maybe a couple times. That almost killed her.
Yeah.
She had a real rough go of it. But she's still here. That was 20 years ago.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I have cancer on both sides of my family. My uncle died. He kind of rock and rolled quite a bit and lived a pretty hard and fast life for quite a bit of his life. And I think when he died like in his 40s and had like brain tumors or throat cancer.
Jesus.
I mean,
I knew there was a couple of kids in high school that went through chemotherapy.
It's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I'm reading about some of these drugs that are utilized. So, they're all used to in some way disrupt the spread, growth, and then in a lot of ways reduce the cancer cells.
Yeah, hopefully.
We have these things called alkylating agents, though. This is kind of a general, just all phases of the cell cycle, kind of your general get in there and destroy the DNA of these cells as they divide and conquer. Here's the kicker, though, and it makes me think of the unintended consequences of life, of things. So because these drugs affect the DNA, they can affect the bone marrow, which makes basically all new blood cells.
Yeah.
So by utilizing this drug, it may lead to leukemia.
Right.
Which it's a blood cancer.
Yeah. It's a very harsh treatment, and I hope that we get to a point someday where it's like the last resort, where we have other more.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of stuff, it's a moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like all science, it's just
right. It's just a step.
It's just the moment in time. It's not forever. It's always going to change. It's always going to get better over a long enough curve. You
hope so. The issue, I think, that is really troubling is drug companies are going to want to keep making the drugs and having a thing to make drugs for as long as they possibly can. They don't want a cure for cancer. And because that is such a huge part of the medical industry, is the drugs. I wonder how long, if ever, that will be allowed to happen.
Yeah, and I think that the development of drugs, the cost of developing drugs is so crazy. Mm-hmm. And the process of getting it approved takes years.
Long time.
But then you can only own the patent for 7 to 10 years, not that long. So you file a patent, and then it takes a couple of years for it to clear, and it costs you billions to develop.
Yeah.
So you only have a few years to make back your billions before other people can just make a generic version of it. So if you are a drug company, they're like, we can't develop drugs for free.
Right.
And we don't have time to perfect it. I think like it's
just
not
gotta make a better one.
Yeah, we have to go on to the next one.
Yeah.
Not even a better one. Like
just another one.
Just another one.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that it's I don't think it's even just like corporate greed as much as this system. There's got to be a better way that, all right, yeah, these companies need to be profitable to keep going.
Yeah.
But they also, we don't need it to be like, just gotta get this out, whatever it is, just to make our money back, because that's not serving us.
Exactly. No, it really is not a consumer. It's not for the consumer.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's kind of scary to think that,
or the patient.
Yeah,
as it really is. They just want to keep the cycle going.
Yeah, I don't want my medication rushed to market and then super expensive,
and then coming with a whole bunch of possible side effects that could be worse
that weren't properly vetted because they didn't have time. They like, well, we can't spend 10 years vetting these side effects because then this patent's useless, and we've spent billions.
Yeah.
So whatever, push it out there. It's terrible.
See what happens.
Yeah. And just make either cure it or make more patients, I guess.
Yeah. The cure, if it comes, will not come from the USDA. It'll come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we'll have to go to great lengths in order to get it to us, I think.
Did you watch that Matt Damon movie where
Matt Damon.
Where he is like a mechanic kind of guy down here on Earth, and there's this ruling class of people. What the hell is it called?
Oh, Elysium?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
They had that, they say they have this machine that it's like your morning shower. It just eradicates cancer cells in your body.
Oh, you got a little bit of cancer?
Yeah.
Get rid of that
not
for
anymore.
You.
Yeah.
You're welcome. But only if you're super rich.
Yeah, only if you're super rich.
That is totally what that movie is about.
That shit's coming.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And then the lowly, poor, sickly people down on Earth.
We're going to need a couple of trillions here. So there's also anti-metabolites, a different kind of medication that's used to treat cancer here. But this just steps in and substitutes the DNA and RNA during the growth phase of the cells. So it's a little different. Instead of just going in and like destroying the DNA, it just kind of goes in and replaces the DNA and RNA. I think it just really depends on like where the cancer is, how it might possibly spread. Because you don't, if you're treating leukemia, you don't want to just go in and destroy like the bone marrow.
Right.
But you might want to go in and just stop the cells from being copied.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not trying to reduce a tumor in that situation. It's just like blood that you're trying to treat.
Right.
Those are the two that jumped out to me. Just basically going in and just laying waste to all the cells in the body, or just going in and
it's going in with a automatic giant machine gun.
Yeah.
When, ideally you would want a very site accurate rifle. It's just boop,
we have another one.
Blast it.
That's I can't even say this word. Topoisomerase inhibitor.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Good job.
And that steps in and interferes with this development of this enzyme that will separate the strands of DNA. DNA has to be separated, then it gets copied.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an enzyme that does that, and this drug just goes in and just messes with the enzyme. So it kind of leaves the DNA alone, but just can't be copied at that point. But again, all these things, it's kind of here's some medicine.
It's going to do something.
It's going to do something. And I think some, for some cancers, there's probably some treatments that are laser focused, but
yeah, I do keep hearing about specifically like cancer centers that are specializing in a certain type of treatment. And usually the pitch is it's a very concentrated treatment. I don't know what it is though.
The specialized side of things, that makes sense to me kind of intuitively.
Mm-hmm.
Because the cancers are different.
Yep.
The drugs used to treat them are different. And if I had leukemia, I would want to go to someone who that's all they did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need someone who does leukemia and then does breast cancer and then, does brain tumors.
Right.
Like, no. Which is another thing too, with the medical field. I think becoming specialized versus being generally capable.
Right.
It feels like as an evolution of medical discovery and science and then treatment, it forces your hand to become more specialized.
Mm-hmm.
The town doctor, you think about like in the Wild West, there was the doctor.
With his bag.
Yeah, that
making
black
house calls.
satchel and a little hammer for your knee.
Mm-hmm.
And he would like hit your knee and say, yeah, it's leukemia.
For sure.
And we have nothing to help you with.
That's it for you.
You're a dead guy.
All right.
Yeah.
I got to go down the street.
Yeah, I got to go pull a horse's teeth. Because that's my other job. I'm a vet. But it seems like now even doctors are more and more specialized.
Yeah. I mean, they really kind of have to be if they want to, especially if you really want to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You choose a thing that you really feel strongly about and go for it.
I wonder if that's kind of where the cure comes from for things.
Strong concentration and effort
and
time.
If you're just an individual or even working in a medical group and you, through research or treating patients, develop a cure, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to motivate that.
Yeah.
And there's ethical and moral reasons. There's also just your place in history is cemented.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of financial gain for you.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of a win-win-win-win-win for all the patients that are now going to be. So rather than the corporate model of just a drug company, I wonder how that kind of stuff can be made worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
I read this book, The Checklist Manifesto. It was kind of like a really great reminder that humans are not perfect and everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
It's stuff that's routine,
Yeah.
During, I think it was World War II, or when they were developing or right after World War II, they're developing all these new jets and bombers and stuff. And the technology was, so you have these different companies competing against each other. And this really famous test pilot really within the industry and really, this guy had a ton of hours in the sky, crashed on takeoff for this prototype. And from then on, they started writing a checklist. So like the pre-flight check, that's where that came from.
Oh, okay.
It's like, yeah, this is a person with all these hours, decorated war hero kind of pilot, and couldn't even take off. He forgot something.
Yeah.
So instead of relying on just that human, that kind of maverick, because at the time, it's like this, just these ace pilots, just the seat of your pants and you grab the chuck, and just keep flying.
Yeah.
And instead of doing that, I was like, no, you just need to fly the plane. And there's a series of steps that go into this.
Make sure that plane works.
Yeah.
I think we kind of instinctively put a tremendous amount of trust in medical professionals because you have to believe that they know what they are doing way better than you do so that they can help you.
Yeah. And I wonder...
But they're just another person.
That's the thing is I wonder how many times a day do you even secretly, privately think, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
I'm
sure that they think the same thing exactly the same amount of times.
Yeah. Shit, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
what we're going to do.
When I had like this crazy thing, I don't know if it was like an infected pore or something. Like my whole top lip just swelled up. This was a couple of years ago. And like it looked like a bee had just stung my lip. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And it just happened
out of nowhere.
Overnight. And it happened like a couple weeks ago too. But I just took some like Benadryl.
Yeah.
And it just went away. Like I could feel within 10 minutes it just went whoom. And then I just like put an ice pack on it and took some Benadryl.
You look like a Kardashian?
Yeah, it was, but only like on half my face. So if anyone out there is listening that knows what that could be, and then it went away. It was fine the next day. It was like a punch or something. Like I lost a fight. But I went to the hospital. I had a doctor and then like a physician's assistant in there. I'm getting the sonogram. What's it called?
Ultrasound?
Ultrasound, yeah. I have a kid.
Yeah.
Ended up getting the ultrasound, like this little like pen kind of ultrasound thing, and looking at it and like, I don't really see anything. No, though those are just his teeth. And then they left.
Oh, see, those are teeth there.
And then they just gave me a prescription for like antibiotics. And then
drives me nuts.
That was it. And it was like, $2,000.
Right. It drives me nuts when somebody tells me about this thing that they've had. They've gone to a doctor or two or three, and they don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Or then eventually they find out what was wrong, and those people must have been complete morons because it was something that should have been completely obvious or easy to determine.
Right. But I think that's the funny thing too with this goes with law too. It's the practice of medicine and the practice of law.
Yeah.
And I think too that we as the general public assume that more has been figured out about the human body than really has been.
Yeah. Well, we're still learning stuff all the time.
And I wish we could just flash forward 1,000 years.
Right. Oh man.
Or
if we're still here, of course.
Yeah. But just to have, I don't know, I'm going to make up some numbers here.
Do it.
So let's say that we know 10% of what the human body is capable of, how it works, and just like a full understanding of the human body, the anatomy, and what makes you tick. So let's just say we think that we know 10%. And then if you flash forward 1,000 years, will they still say, I think we only know 10%?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's still a lot to learn here.
And they know 1,000% more than we know now. But it's just the more you keep learning, I just have a feeling that it's a deeper pit.
Yeah.
Chemotherapy feels that way.
Right.
It's not the elegant solution that you want.
Sure.
You want, because in your mind you want, even if it is, so chemotherapy, it can be administered as a pill, as just like a shot, or like through a intravenous line, like a catheter into a main line.
Yeah.
It's so general, like just taking a pill, and then it just goes in and it's going to look for this kind of DNA or this kind of enzyme or this RNA, and it's going to affect it. Doesn't matter if it's cancer or not.
Right.
So it's the hammer, like the
strokes.
The problem looks like a nail, and the only thing you have is a hammer and
sledgehammer.
Yeah. Or when the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
You would think, and you would hope, but really you would think that, especially looking back on things that seemed insurmountable, like very large health problems, we got over them. Cancer seems like something that we should get a handle on at some point. Yeah. Especially if people can go into complete remission and then never see it again, were they I mean, it's hard to call it a cure because it could come back, but we can remove it. We can get rid of it. There's got to be a way to make sure that it does not come back, or at least find a way to treat it without killing you with the treatment.
I read The Singularity is Near, that Ray Kurzweil book a few years ago. And, it's pretty sci-fi.
Yeah. He's a pretty interesting guy.
And not that it's, and I don't even say that he's wrong. I have no idea.
Yeah. Pretty smart dude.
He's a pretty smart dude, and I don't have any data to go against what he says. I'd love to hear him debate with someone else who's maybe takes it.
He's still around.
Yeah,
right?
he's still alive. But one of his core beliefs is that nanotechnology will be the integration between the human body, like the biology, and our technology.
Yeah,
that to me is a more elegant, in a way, solution, is having just robots the size of atoms that are in your body at all times. They don't really. You don't know, or you don't they don't affect you in a sense that you are aware of them.
Right.
But they're just constantly roaming the halls in there, identifying only cancer cells, and just going in there, killing them. So you never develop cancer.
Yeah.
And, he thinks that this is going to be a reality sometime in the next 15 years.
I don't know about that, but
yeah,
possibly in our lifetime.
And his argument is that the technology is growing at an evolution, or is evolving at an accelerated rate. It's compounding. It's not linear like ours is, our biological evolution, which makes sense. But
yeah,
on the same token, like when you're 50% of the way, it's 11:59, because the next jump when you double is midnight. You know what I mean? So whether or not we are at 11:59 right now, or if it's another 100 years, and then, if in 100 years we're at 50%, then in 101 years we will be at the full integration, because it's just evolving. Like, we're doubling every year. So whether or not his timeline is accurate, it does make sense to me that at some point in the future, unless, we nuke humans off the face of the earth, there will be technology like that.
Right.
And it might be in this century, or maybe it's going to be a couple millennia.
Yeah, there definitely will be technology like that. Whether or not it gets put into that kind of use in that short of a time frame, that seems dubious. But
do you ever think about how, I think about this sometimes, think about previous generations that cancer was just a death sentence?
Yeah.
Or, or anything that was a death sentence.
Right.
Or that was misunderstood or not understood at all. And then you think, man, we know so much more now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think, we don't know anything.
Right.
Because
seems like we don't.
In 100 years, when someone finds a USB drive with this conversation on it, in the rubble of...
These guys are dum-dums.
Yeah, the rubble of a burned out Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even know what they would play it on.
Right. Probably just load it right into their face.
They don't have any technology. It's all found. There's like a hellscape. They'll listen to this and go, man, they didn't know anything.
They didn't have a clue.
Yeah. That was before the war.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got a little sidetracked there.
Yeah. So the thing with chemo, though, that sets it apart from surgery or radiation therapy is that it is general.
Right.
So there are definitely instances where you just want a general whole body.
Mm-hmm.
If you had here's one spot on the body that is cancer. All right, let's say it was like radiation directly, surgery directly.
Yeah.
Get it out of there. But if it's just spread out throughout the whole, like cancer cells are spreading throughout the body, you kind of want that blanket general approach, but these drugs are super powerful as well. There's some drugs that there's a lifetime dose. So you can't, you can't take more than this in your lifetime.
Yeah.
So even if, it didn't get the cancer. All right, well,
you had it all.
You've had all even if you're 35, Yep. You can never take this again.
Wow.
It's intense.
There's also, I think, some that are what you have to take it for your lifetime.
Yeah. There's the cure, control, and then palliation. Those are the 3 goals of chemotherapy. Okay. Cure and control is pretty obvious. Palliation is just to basically reduce the symptoms of cancer. So I think it's, moderate dose, moderate strength. It just is going to help alleviate a lot of the pain associated with cancer while you're undergoing other treatments.
A friend of mine, his dad, who was a doctor, a surgeon, I believe, got cancer about 10 years ago and is now taking a chemo pill for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I wonder what the dosage is.
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to know. I want to kind of listen to my gut more, just in general in life.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of times where, I'm like, oh man, I definitely had a feeling about that.
Yeah.
But that makes sense to me, just of saying, all right, here's 1/1000th of what the dosage would be if we were actually trying to destroy a whole cancer thing in your whole body. And this is going to keep it at bay.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense to me.
It's so expensive, though.
I bet
Those
it
pills
is.
are extremely expensive.
That's another thing too, man.
Yeah,
Insurance.
That's a big time thing. Again, with the corporation aspect of it, the business, it is big business, like bigger than it even should be.
It's new too, because the concept of health insurance being anything more than like the town doctor is pretty new.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, we have like major hospitals with billions of dollars in endowment every year that can treat tons of different diseases. So like you get anything, there's actually treatment you can get. All right, how much does that cost? Well, it's brand new. We just mentioned there's $1 billion facility, right? Did you hear us?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's gonna be like a ton of money.
Very expensive.
It's gonna be a ton of money.
Yeah.
So like, previously you would just die.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna survive and be horribly in debt. Or uninsurable or whatever the case may be.
Right.
It's gonna cost you. But again, that's like, it's so new. And on the one hand, it's crazy how many things we can treat. And that is uplifting and kind of awe-inspiring to me. But yeah, the other hand is, can you afford to survive?
Right.
God, it's brutal.
And if we're spending so much money on getting the new drug, what about a better, more concentrated approach on longevity? Let's find the drug.
Mm-hmm. Or preventative maintenance, or like the stitching time stays 9.
Yeah.
Like
that's just not of interest to business.
Well, because I think there hasn't been a marketable way to prevent cancer where you can make money preventing people from developing cancer.
Yeah, that's not lucrative.
Until it is, right. It's not going to come. It's not going to come from anyone that's selling drugs right now.
No, that's what's really sucks. It's not comforting.
Yeah,
because one of the 3 hosts of this podcast apparently is going to have cancer at some point.
Yeah.
Who's it gonna be?
I'm pretty sure I have it. I'm like,
I get self-conscious.
I'm going to schedule a doctor's appointment. I had my eyes checked a couple weeks ago.
Really?
They took my blood pressure, and it was 88/50. That seems really low.
Yeah, it does.
A year ago, I went to like a regular doctor's appointment, and my blood pressure was 118/70 something.
Yeah.
That seems...
What are you doing?
I haven't changed that much in my life. Diet, exercise.
Mm-mm. What's the secret?
Also, my resting heart rate was in the 30s.
Whoa.
I'm not sure.
Are you blissed out? Are you alive?
I'm not sure. I feel, again, listening to my gut, kind of like that.
Why? Yeah.
And it was just an eye doctor's appointment, so they had like a little Wi-Fi thing to take my blood pressure. I don't really know if I trust it. But at the same time, they probably have to do it for their, license and insurance and stuff, so they can't really fuck around.
True.
They can't be that far off. They have to be within a certain percentage, or else people will come and be like, what kind of Who set up this food cart, eye doctor?
Yeah.
I need to get health insurance or life insurance too. I don't have any. I have some through work. Again, this chemotherapy research, there was like 60% of my brain was just kind of like 40% was like, yeah, chemotherapy. What are these drugs? What do they do? And the other 60% was, you've got cancer, man.
Yeah, you're going to need these drugs.
You'll be dead in a year. You need a doctor and you need life insurance before anyone finds out how sick you are.
You're going to die.
How sick you are.
I've been concerned about skin cancer, and that's been fairly common.
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of moles, too.
I'm freckled up, man.
I went to the dermatologist last year, and nothing was super concerning to them. But so when you get skin cancer, first and foremost, you remove it if it is there. But what if, that can spread.
Totally. And it may not have even started at the skin.
Right. Inside out. Oh, no.
Well, I was looking up what are the symptoms of cancer. And of course, what do you think the symptoms of cancer are?
Like flu symptoms, probably.
Like everything. Yeah, it could be anything and everything.
Discomfort.
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much pain are you in?
Yeah.
Point to the face that best represents your pain. Just a little frowny face. Yeah. Poop emoji.
That one.
Poopy. But yeah, the skin cancer, like images of skin cancer. And some were like, oh, yeah, you got something going on here.
Obviously.
Yeah, and you're not smoking meth?
Yeah.
That's just
there?
All right, that's cancer. I'm not a doctor, but... yeah. And other ones are just kind of, you get like a little freckle.
Slightly oddly shaped.
Yeah, freckle that went kind of whoop to the side.
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping a close eye on some of these babies.
I get new freckles all the time.
Yeah. I've gotten new, are they freckles or are they moles?
I don't know. I don't know the difference.
Yeah. I think they're probably moles. I've gotten new moles in the last like 5-10 years.
Raised little thing here in my arm. But
you keep an eye on.
I also burn like crazy in the sun.
Yeah.
And I've had sunburns in my life that the skin, when it finally did start to heal, there was a layer of dead skin that was probably, like 7 layers of skin. I think it was like 6.5 layers that were burned through. My skin was it was literally like leather on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And ever since then, my shoulders have been covered in freckles.
Huh.
Well, I started kind of going off the chemo, just kind of into cancer. I think maybe just for my own psychosis.
Makes sense.
But chemo in general, it seems pretty, like I said, I think it's a topic and a field that is, I'm sure that there's a chalkboard with hieroglyphics on it.
It's vast.
That's, describing one drug. And it's a super deep topic.
Yeah.
Because it is common. I think it's been dumbed down.
Mm-hmm.
So doing the research for this was like, it's a basic term for treating disease with medication.
Yep.
And the objective is cure, control, or just alleviate the symptoms. So depending on the cancer, maybe the chemo will cure it, depending on the kind of cancer. Maybe it will control it until we can get in there with some sort of radiation or surgical procedure. Or maybe it's just going to relieve or alleviate the symptoms while something else is happening.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your friend's dad is that's alleviating, basically. It's not really...
he seems to be doing pretty well.
Or it could even be a little bit of control in there too, I guess. He has to keep taking it, so it's not cure.
Right.
But like anything, that side of things, when I thought about it like that, I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of a basic overview, but the cancer side of it, that gets the wheels.
Yeah, it really takes up the lion's share.
I'm definitely scheduling a doctor's appointment.
I think you should.
Next time on the fundamentals, my cancer diagnosis.
Darren's results.
Well, I promise you this. If I do have cancer, it's going to be stage 4.
Guaranteed,
because why wouldn't it be?
Of course.
And if it is, I'll just keep doing the podcast until the end. And
we'll be recording up until the end.
I'll quit my job and we'll do it every day.
Full time. We'll get a lot more listeners. That'll be some
I'll tell you everything you need to know about chemotherapy by the end of it.
As it's happening.
Yeah. I can't even think about it.
It's nobody wants to.
I think having
we're all going to know someone, or we do, that goes through it, or it's going to be us.
Having the baby, though, even I'm just like having these thoughts, giving him a bath, and just looking at him and be like, I cry once a decade or so, and I'm just like, I think having him, and then thinking that thought, like, what if I died in the next year?
Yeah,
knowing I was going to die the whole year. Like it's, I ride my bike to work, and I could get hit by a car or struck by lightning, or like something could happen, and I'm not naive to that, but just that idea of
knowing,
of looking, because I just stare at him most of the time when it was just the two of us. Just I can't even handle it.
Yeah,
like just staring at him. I can't look. It's like I can't look away. Yeah. He's like a car crash. Like my baby's a car crash. Like you can't not look.
Tiny, adorable car crash.
Yeah. Just
high mortality.
High mortality, ton of poop.
It's a mess.
Yeah. And then I just like, oh man, you get, this kind of where meditation comes in. You need to just start thinking, all right, these are just thoughts that I'm having.
Yep.
You need to recognize these as thoughts, because if you don't,
let them pass.
See where they go. They're off.
Yep.
It's brutal.
Yeah, man. Shit.
Well,
you got through all your bullet points?
I think so. And that's
cool.
Those are the fundamentals.
That's right. That's what we do.
While we're here. Do you feel like you learned anything?
Yeah.
Really?
I do. I mean, as much sense as it makes, the term chemotherapy, it's just like next to it in the dictionary is
cancer.
Cancer, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what is more successful, chemotherapy or radiation?
Depends on
they're not always used together.
No, but it depends on the cancer, where it is in the body, how far it's spread, the person's age, any other illnesses, like if you have heart disease or diabetes or something. I mean, if you think about the body as a system, what is the overall picture of this system right now?
Yeah.
How is it functioning? Because if it's I got the diabetes, I
got the beatus,
got the sugar, and the old ticker's not that great, and there's a mole on my arm. Like, we're not doing a course of chemo, I don't think, just because your system's already compromised.
Yeah.
And again, if it's kind of a generalized spread of cancer throughout the body, this is a generalized spread of medication that goes throughout the body that just starts attacking specific cells at specific points in their development. So if it's like in the growth stage of a cell, some cancers, that's when you want to hit it.
Yeah.
If it's in just if you just can't catch it in those cycles of the cell, there's other medications that just kind of in general get in there. Any cells that's trying to develop, you're just going to destroy the DNA if it's not going to develop. But that's where your hair is going. I think your fingernail, like the cells of your fingernails.
Oh, yeah.
Just those fast growing cells. I think even skin cells, they just kind of replicate themselves pretty quick. And it's just one tool in the arsenal, so it's better for some cancers. And then it's a support system for other like surgery or radiation. So if you have like a brain tumor or something, they want that as small as possible when they get in there. So maybe chemotherapy is a good option for, depending on, again, your other outlying health concerns, or, how old are you?
Yeah.
You're 95. This is going to knock you out. So maybe we don't do that. And maybe we don't even do the surgery.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't do any radiation. I don't know. That's another thing too. That's to me, the logical conversation, or the steps in the conversation leads to, okay, so it's stage 4 cancer, it's terminal, and you have a year.
Yeah.
If we go through chemo, maybe you get 18 months. And in those 18 months, your hair's going to fall out. You have no energy. Like fatigue is it wipes you out. Then you start making these, you have the scales in your mind, and emotionally you start weighing out Do I want 1 year where I keep my energy up? Maybe I'm a little bit more about myself, like a little bit more there.
Yeah.
Or do I want 18 months? I want 6 more months, but I'm going to be...
It's hell.
It's hell.
Yeah.
It's more hell.
Yeah.
And that old saying, sometimes the cure is worse than the disease.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was written for chemotherapy for some people in some instances. Again, that's also like the general sense of this. You don't really know. You can't say, or I can't say, well, I would just take that year and have it be better.
Right.
Because I think depending entirely on like where the cancer is and where I am in my life, maybe that other 6 months, even if it is, more difficult.
Say this happens to you in the next 6 months. You get stage 4 diagnosis. Do you want that extra 6 months to see your kid? Yeah.
Definitely. But there's also, there is a definite, he wouldn't remember me.
Right.
Whether or not I lived 6 more months. So if I found out right now, it would be just for me that I would want to spend as much time.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely see, I've had the thought that if I felt like his first memories would be the last 3 months of my life, and I was at, month 15 here and
wasting
away, and his first memories is me hunched over a toilet, shitting myself. Right. I don't know that I want that to be his first memory. So I definitely think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that, like having a kid, there's no way to prepare until you're in it.
Yep.
Even just during pregnancy and labor and delivery, it's kind of like, you have a plan that you hope is what's going to happen, but it's kind of pretty quick. Once that plan goes out the window, it's just out the window. Like that's just it.
Yep.
So it doesn't really matter what you like going into it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not that it doesn't matter. What you think going into it may or may not be the way it happens. Right. I think it does matter to have a plan. And if anyone listening is having a baby, I think definitely have a plan. Have a picture in your mind of how you want it to go. And there's a saying in theater, hold on tightly, let go lightly.
Mm.
I think that's a really good saying to apply to life, really.
Sure.
Hold on tightly, let go lightly. And that kind of...
But let go.
Yeah, and just let go lightly. You don't, if it's going, it's going.
Yeah.
And just let it go. But up until that point, hold on tight.
Mm-hmm.
Hold fast. I don't know. I kind of need to run that through the old brain computer a little bit more. But I think in some instances in life, that I think that really does apply. It's not necessarily universal, but it's there are moments in life I think where that's appropriate.
You can plan all you want, and you should. You want to have intention.
Mike Tyson said everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another way of saying hold on tightly, let go lightly.
Right. There you go. But you never know what's going to happen. But the attitude of this is what is, and accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Move on. Move forward. Be here now.
I think that when I'm getting kicked in the head by a baby at 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Be here now. Absorb this punishment.
This is what is. It's chemotherapy. It's more than what you thought, and there's got to be a better way.
Well,
yep.
I'm Darren McCarthy.
I'm Dan Fury.
This has been The Fundamentals. We'll see you soon.
Yep. What were we talking about? Who knows? I don't.
I feel like the only thing that I can do just all day, every day, is sit and think.
Could do that, no problem.
And I don't mean like sit and do nothing.
Hours a day.
I don't mean like just,
Oh yeah, no.
zone out or anything. I mean, like if every hour someone just came in and threw a concept or a thought at me,
yeah,
I could totally spend my entire life like in a semi-meditative state, contemplating things, contemplating like human behavior, contemplating just the laws of nature.
Yep.
I mean, world events.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to absorb information and really think about it. Right. I feel like I'm interrupted. My thoughts are interrupted. Like, so when I'm at work, I can listen to things on my headphones and stuff. But I find that I never get more than like 15 minutes uninterrupted to sit and like, not sit, like, but to just work and have headphones in without someone coming up and saying, hey, I need, help with this.
Sure.
Or, oh, we gotta, this is changing or this is different. And then I have to stop what I'm working on and then stop whatever I'm listening to.
Yeah.
I love spending time with the baby and, my wife, but I really relish that time just alone.
Mm-hmm.
And just, it's like a different gear mentally.
Yeah, I understand. Contemplation.
Because I've been trying to meditate every day for the last year and a half or so.
Really?
Yeah. And just, I do a lot of, actually, I don't eat lunch anymore. I just meditate at work.
Cool.
And sometimes it kind of just becomes a nap. But I find even just 10 minutes uninterrupted.
Yep.
10 minutes at a designated break time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even rushing anywhere at my break, but just like I have a half an hour to carve out 10 minutes of uninterrupted meditation. When I go backpacking, I've gone alone quite a few times.
Yeah. My
favorite moment backpacking alone is putting my phone in the car, closing the door and locking it.
Bye.
That single moment is better than like, the hike or the setting up camp or the view or making a fire, making dinner, reading.
Yeah.
That
conscious
the actual
disconnect.
Yeah, the actual like alone time, it is never higher than like just the chunk.
And that used to be all the time.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, like getting ready for school.
Mm-hmm.
My mom would have to say, "Stop daydreaming. Get dressed." I mean, it's like, I'm like 7 years old. I'm just staring out the window.
I love that. I love that.
Like I just woke up from dreaming.
I could totally see that.
Weird big eyes. Yeah.
Stop daydreaming.